Today, Judge Robert Chasteen is in court to sentence Bo Dukes for helping to conceal the death of Tara Grinstead. Tara, a teacher from Irwin County and former beauty queen, disappeared in 2005. Her body was never found, but it is believed that Tara was murdered. Although the man suspected of killing her was acquitted of the charges, his accomplice, Bo Dukes, confessed to the police in 2017 that he helped to dispose of and hide Tara's body. Justice has been a long time coming for Tara's family, and Judge Chasteen begins the hearing by acknowledging this.
Nothing that I do here is going to alleviate the pain that the family has endured all these years.
It is clear from his body language that the judge is struggling to maintain his composure, fiddling with items on his desk as he tries to find words that might bring some comfort to the Grinstead family.
It's just an unfortunate situation that the family's had to grieve that long to determine what happened to Tara Grinstead. I just can't quite, wrap my head around.
The emotional strain is evident in his voice as he continues his speech.
And that would have been the time to come forward and say, let me tell you what I did. We all have. But that would have been the time to come forward.
Unable to contain himself any longer, Judge Chasteen breaks down. Distressed by the prolonged suffering that the Grinstead family endured during the 12 years they spent searching for answers.
When you were asked about it in June of 2016, but that's a part of my job.
Eventually, Judge Chasteen regains control of his emotions and imposes the maximum combined sentence of 25 years on Bo Dukes, ensuring at least some measure of justice for the Grinstead family.
The court's going to sentence you on count 1 to a period of 5 years to serve in the state penitentiary. On count 2, the court's going to sentence you to 5 years to serve in the state penitentiary consecutive to count 1. And on count 3, the court's going to sentence you to 5 years consecutive to count 2 to serve in the state penitentiary. And on count 4, the court's going to sentence you to 10 years consecutive to the sentence of count 3 to serve in the state penitentiary.
This is Judge Jennifer Darrow, facing the sheer heartbreak that brings her to the brink of tears.
It's hard not to think about what I watched and not have this reaction.
Judge Darrow is conducting the sentencing hearing for Darrell Brooks at the Waukesha County Court in Wisconsin. The sentencing follows a contentious trial in which 40-year-old Brooks represented himself against over 76 charges, including 6 counts of intentional homicide, after he drove his SUV through a Christmas parade in Waukesha. The incident resulted in the deaths of 6 people, the youngest of whom was only 8 years old, and injuries to dozens more. Despite his claims that he sounded the vehicle's horn to warn spectators, he was found guilty on all counts. Today, Brooks is in court to hear his fate regarding the charges, and Judge Darrow is not holding back as she delivers her emotional speech. She begins by outlining all the reasons why she did not accept Brooks's defense that he did not intend to plow through the crowd.
Many police vehicles at these intersections with their lights flashing. There's no doubt in my mind that Mr. Brooks would understand a parade was going on. It was not yet dark, it was dusk. I think that aids to the visibility that Mr. Brooks would have seen all of these people. This is not under cover of night.
As the judge continues her passionate address to the court, Brooks sits fanning himself indifferently with a file folder until Judge Darrow can no longer hold back. What happens next is highly unusual in a courtroom. Judge Darrow becomes visibly more emotional, and as she begins to talk about the 11 members of the Waukesha South Band who were struck by Brooks, she is overcome with emotion. Through her tears, she describes how the evidence she saw keeps her up at night.
It's hard not to think about what I watched and not have this reaction. Those were images that frankly kept me up at night, that I saw over and over and over.
The judge continues, applauding the courage of the band director who testified during the trial, and the emotion is evident as her voice breaks.
She is a hero to me, to get up on the stand, to identify each one of her students.
Eventually, she reaches for a tissue to wipe away her tears as she continues. She takes a few moments to compose herself before proceeding, while Brooks remains expressionless in his seat. The hearing continues, and Judge Darrow seems to have regained her composure. But as she begins to speak once more about the victim's testimony, she breaks down again.
And then, of course, another video that frankly is very difficult to watch and hard to unsee. I now understand why one of the girls called her aunt and said, "My entire team is dead," because that's what it looked like. It was horrific. And to think of those two brave young ladies who got up during this trial to testify about what they saw, what they did. Your dancers are proud of you, and because of you, justice has been served.
Incredibly, as she delivers these harrowing words, Brooks shows no visible signs of concern and raises his hands in a display of defiance. As she nears the end of her address, Brooks begins to interrupt the judge.
That you had contact with her on the 20th. There was some physical. Mr. Brooks, this is my time. You need to not interrupt. Mr. Brooks,
the state
you need to stop.
said specifically, wrote you, Your Honor.
Mr.
And
Brooks,
now you want to sit up here.
Do not interrupt me
you,
or you will be removed to the other
and now
courtroom.
you want to sit up here.
Stop.
And try to.
Brooks continues to argue, and Judge Darrow warns him that he will be removed if he does not stop.
You talking about someone with 5 kids that don't have custody.
You need to stop
None of
right
them.
now or you will be removed.
Remove me then.
Brooks is eventually escorted out of the courtroom by sheriff's officers.
All right, he will be removed. He cannot simply stay
I don't
quiet.
consent.
He is finally sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. It would be difficult for anyone to remain unaffected by such a heinous crime, especially for Judge Darrow, who has 3 children. This is Judge William Atkinson. He has seen this same anguish many times. Today, Judge Atkinson is in court to sentence David Meyer for 2 counts of vehicular homicide with a prohibited alcohol concentration. Meyer's blood alcohol level was nearly 3 times over the legal limit for driving when he struck Rebecca and Raya Pennenberg, who were out walking in Lawrence, Wisconsin. Mother and daughter died instantly upon impact. The Pennenberg family is present in court to hear Meyer's sentence, and several statements written by their loved ones are read, requesting a lengthy prison sentence for the drunk driver. Judge Atkinson's feelings are clear as he begins addressing the court with strong words.
I've seen too many people suffer from drunk driving. I didn't know the family, had no connection, but I've seen too many of these cases.
Although he didn't know the victims or their family, it's evident that the judge has been deeply affected by the case. His voice cracks, and he becomes increasingly emotional as he continues to speak. In an incredible act of humanity, Judge Atkinson breaks down in tears, openly weeping as he imagines the possibility of his own wife and daughter going out one night and not coming home due to the actions of a drunk driver.
I recognize the pain. I can only imagine if my wife, my daughter, did not come home one night.
Those present in the courtroom are stunned by his speech, and some are moved by the emotion in his words. As he concludes his statement, Meyer also speaks, expressing his regret and apologizing for his actions.
There's nothing I can say that's gonna ease their pain. There's no words I can say to give them any peace. I've been and will continue to give people the understanding of what it means to drink and drive. I continue to tell everyone I meet that when you drink, the first thing you lose is your judgment.
However, Judge Atkinson is not convinced by his display of remorse and sentences Meyer to a total of 10 years in prison for the deaths of Rebecca and Raya Pennenberg. He also orders Meyer to serve 10 years of extended supervision after his release, during which the defendant will not be permitted to buy or consume alcohol. This is Judge Amber Wolf of the 2nd Division of the Kentucky Court. Judge Wolf's compassionate nature has become well known in the cold, rational world of law, and today she will show just how far she is willing to go to treat defendants with compassion. Before her is James Rare, a 24-year-old man from Kentucky facing theft charges after he and his wife, Ashley, were caught breaking into a warehouse and stealing 6 flat-screen TVs. Recently, Ashley gave birth to the couple's son while James was in custody, and since they are co-defendants, a no-contact order is in place, preventing James from meeting his newborn. Judge Wolf was wrapping up James's hearing and preparing to begin Ashley's when she noticed the young mother holding up the baby in the gallery, allowing her husband to see him as he was leaving the courtroom. The realization that James had not yet met his newborn son stirred something in the judge's sense of humanity, prompting her to act.
You sure you're comfortable with this? Is this what you want to do? All right, just stay right there for just a second.
Judge Wolf said, calling Ashley Rare to the front of the courtroom and speaking with her before calling James Rare back into the room. She issued some strict instructions before clarifying the situation.
I don't want you to say anything to me about your case at all. Don't say anything. Your lawyer's not present right now. But I understand that there is a chance that you're going to go back to Todd County and that your baby is a month old and you haven't met that baby yet.
Judge Wolf summons Ashley to the podium with the baby and makes the introductions.
I know you have a no contact order between you and Miss Roeder that I have, that I issued, and I'm not changing that. I'm making a temporary exception right in front of me on the record so that you can meet this baby. This is your son.
Watch the touching moment as Ashley hands the tiny baby to her husband, who takes him and holds him lovingly.
Be careful. You see his little shirt?
Yeah.
Overcome with emotion, Ashley Rare is seen wiping tears from her eyes, and she's not alone. When the camera pans back to Judge Wolf, she is also seen wiping a tear from her cheek. With that, the judge wraps up the moment, telling the defendant that she will see him at his next court date. Judge Wolf's tears were a reaction to a joyful, emotional moment in her courtroom.
And Miss Roeder, you can stay up here because I'm going to call your case next. Thank you for letting me be a part of that. If you all aren't teared up, then you're just heartless.
This is Diana Lovejoy, who was married to Greg Malvihill and lived in Carlsbad, California, but soon their marriage fell apart and they divorced. After a messy divorce and many legal issues, the court ordered Diana to pay $20,000 to Greg for his share of their family home. The court also ordered her to share custody of their son. Diana became furious upon hearing the court orders and planned to kill her ex-husband by teaming up with her boyfriend, Weldon McDavid. Greg was shot in the torso, but fortunately, the bullet did not hit his heart, and he survived. Both McDavid and Diana conspired to commit murder, and the court has sufficient evidence against them.
It's so painful that some people in this world seem to think that I would have it in me to do this,
she said. Interestingly, she fainted in court. She lowered her head on the defense table for a few seconds.
Verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant, Diana Jean Lovejoy, guilty of the crime of attempted murder of Greg Mulvihill.
And as soon as you hear guilty, you hear a thud.
Guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder.
The courtroom fell silent, except for the sound of her family crying in the background.
I need to take a break.
I need a break, she said. She was brought to the floor, and when medics took her out, she still seemed unconscious, but doctors later found out she had only fainted. Weldon McDavid was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison because he was the one who pulled the trigger, and Diana was sentenced to 26 years to life in prison. This is Ryan Stone. a Colorado man who went on a crime spree that spanned 5 counties and was broadcasted live by a news station's helicopter. Stone was convicted of carjacking 3 vehicles, including one with a 4-year-old child inside the SUV. Authorities said that when Stone fled, he led police on a chase at over 100 miles per hour. If we rewind, we can see a vehicle that Stone was driving hitting a Colorado State Patrol officer who was trying to place stop sticks. The officer ended up with serious injuries. You see Stone pulling another victim out of their vehicle and driving away. He enters a busy intersection, and now the chase is on foot. He runs off the road into a parking lot, passes between 2 buildings, slips on ice, and loses his jacket. Now, there's just a fence in his way, but it's too high. The cops close in and he finally surrenders. Stone is now in the county jail, but he believes he should be paid for his internet fame, boasting to friends about the high-speed chase.
Hey, did you know I made the news in the UK and Australia? What? Yeah, you get paid by YouTube. So, Channel 7 News, I believe, is going to be the one that gets paid for that. Well, I'm going to contact Channel 7 News. I want to get paid. You guys are getting paid using my name and my video footage.
During his opportunity to address the court about the recordings in jail, Stone blamed emotional stress and drug use.
We are going through trial after that. It was a 1.5-week trial. Extremely stressful. One of the phone calls about seeming like I was bragging about making international news, this, that, and the other. That was within the first week of being arrested. Still coming off of drugs.
Stone was convicted of 18 charges, including attempted manslaughter, child abuse, and assault. The judge sentenced him to 160 years in prison. This is Jaleel Smith Riley in a Cincinnati, Ohio courtroom, who the police claim confessed to a robbery that resulted in the death of a 20-year-old woman and the serious injury of her boyfriend. Portia Brooks was in her car with her boyfriend, Aaron Martin, when Smith Riley approached the vehicle with 2 accomplices to rob them. When Smith Riley discovered that Martin didn't have any money, he shot him in the head, leaving him with permanent brain damage. Smith Riley then shot Brooks, who died 3 days later.
Lord, go back on with you. I just want to come home with it.
This is somebody that feels genuine remorse. This is somebody that thinks about this every day, and he knows that he can't go back in time and undo what he did.
Now, Portia Brooks' mother delivers a victim impact statement.
But he killed me mentally, emotionally. He killed my identity as a mother of 3, as a family of 4.
Now it's Brooks' sister speaking.
I have to deal with life without Portia, so he should deal with life without parole.
These are the moments before Jaleel Smith Riley receives the news that he will never return home.
Defendant serve a term of life without parole. As to count 4 for the offense of attempted murder.
This is Esteban Carpio. The police were questioning him for the stabbing of an 85-year-old woman in Rhode Island. In the interview room were Carpio and 2 detectives. One of the detectives left the room to get water for Carpio, leaving only him and Detective Sergeant James Allen. Carpio grabbed Allen's gun and shot him twice, killing him. He then jumped out of a 3rd-story window and tried to run, but was apprehended just 45 minutes later. At his arraignment, Carpio appeared wearing a mask designed to prevent the offender from spitting and biting, and his face was in rough shape, which stunned the courtroom. It wasn't so much Carpio's reaction that was shocking, but rather his family members making accusations of police brutality.
Step off.
It's gross police brutality. He was mentally ill and he needed help and we couldn't get it. We tried and tried. And he didn't deserve this.
An FBI investigation concluded that the police did not use excessive force and that Carpio's injuries were sustained due to his jump from the 3rd floor and the struggle with law enforcement.
Every day, I face the facts of what I did and what happened.
He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Let me know what you think about the video. I'd like to ask you to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. It really helps a lot and costs you nothing. And now, let's move on to the last case, which will leave you stunned. This is Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari, a religious couple living in Cedar Springs, Michigan, and they were charged with the murder of their 10-month-old daughter, Mary Welch. Reportedly, they told police that they noticed the baby was thin and underweight, but did not seek medical attention due to their religious beliefs and distrust of medicine and the government. This is the 911 call from the father when he reportedly found his child dead.
How long ago did you find this child?
It's about an hour and a half. I was waiting. I called my lawyer first thing to ask, what's the next thing I could.
So you found the child an hour and a half ago?
Yeah.
And called your lawyer first, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When was the last time you had contact with the child?
Last night,
Okay, so you put her to bed yesterday at 3 p.m.?
Yeah, and then this morning at 10.
So you're saying it is normal for your children to sleep from around 3 p.m. till 10 a.m.?
Usually about 9:30, yeah.
And you said when you found her, she was already believed to be deceased, right?
Yes.
And that's when you consulted with a lawyer?
Yep.
Do you believe she was beyond help already?
Oh, yeah, she was dead at the door now.
After the autopsy, it was revealed that the cause of death was malnutrition and dehydration due to neglect by the adult caregivers. This is the moment they realize they will be spending the rest of their lives behind bars.
That you're both charged with what they call felony murder while in the perpetration or attempted perpetration of child abuse in the 1st degree. They're alleging that you murdered one Mary Welch. That is a charge called homicide felony murder. It is life without parole. It requires a DNA sample to be taken upon arrest, which is often like a cotton swab or in the inside of your cheek. The second offense that you're both charged with is called child abuse in the 1st degree.
That's it for today's video. Leave a comment about what you would do if you were a family member in any of these cases. Subscribe to the channel and see you soon.